Morning, everybody. It is 8:16. A little delay here. Good morning. Welcome to my channel here. It is November 18th. It is Tuesday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Our markets were gapping down previously. They're right now within yesterday's range, right about the lows. And on the futures chart, on the daily charts, we actually closed below the 50-day moving average yesterday. Now in futures, you did it the prior. Well, no, that's the overnights. Sorry about that. Yeah, but in daily charts on SPY and QQQ, you close below the 50-day moving average. Now, as far as the close, you close within Friday's range. Okay, and you had not much weakness till about a little after noon, where the market started to get weaker and weaker yesterday. And I actually posted in my Discord my first. Good morning, Mark. My first scenario yesterday, a short scenario, came out to fruition. We pushed into the ultimate balance level yesterday and rejected. And I was even live saying that that was my short. I actually had an alert because I wanted to have some manipulation come in above this hourly level, and it literally was a tick. And I was like, all right, let's see. If we go a little higher, I'm going to short it based on what I said in the morning. And it didn't go to that level, kind of just stayed. And then you saw what happened. If you saw the markets, it kind of literally, what did I say? Big moves happen away from ultimate balance. And that's what happened yesterday. Okay. Now, like I said, in coming down the pipe, we have NVIDIA earnings tomorrow after the close. We have FOMC minutes. That's due on Wednesday. And we have unemployment data on Thursday. There's a lot of stuff yet to come. Now, this market is getting weak. We'll have to see. Breath took a hit yesterday. So Breath took a hit yesterday. Like I said, no really news headlines. It's just overvaluations. A lot of AI tech that's not profitable is getting smoked. Bitcoin has, it's at 91,000 right now. Remember, I showed you guys that big most traded price of the year that it came to, and I said it needs to hold that. It didn't. All right, maybe we'll just show you that chart a little later. But without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Also use Anchor VWAPs, market internals. Helps me know what's going on under the hood of that market. Bookmap for my futures trades. When I want to take my, let me clarify that. When I want to take my setup in futures with pullbacks in a particular patterns I like to see in Bookmap, I will fire them off. Okay, and then I use my weekly expected move that you can get for free in my Discord. All right. Now yesterday, I'm still doing my eval for Top Step. That's a funded futures program. So I've been like taking advantage. I got into this a little bit on my stream. My setups have not been firing really. So, but during the day, if you listen to me live, I pretty much commentate and narrate the markets of what should happen, even within the next minute, what should happen, and I'm pretty accurate, right? But sometimes that's not my trade setup. It's just what I think should happen. And usually it happens. Like I'll be like, oh, we should wick here. Oh, we should get a little bounce here. Well, what I'm doing with that is saying, all right, let me take advantage of that edge, right? Because I've been watching markets for a while. And instead of just saying what it's going to do, what I'm doing is taking some scalps. All right, so I'm taking some scalps using Top Step, and not just taking any scalp. Like they are like very they're They're not impulsive. So coming to a level, I'll be like, okay, I think we should move down a little bit. And then as soon as I get in, I just trail my stop. I'm not looking, I have to get a target per se. So let's see. Let's see. I'm more than halfway to get funded. So I don't know. I'm just trying this out. And if I see my setup, I will trade my personal account. But until then, basically, you don't have any money at risk. And one of my good friends, documents, he's already has, they call it an XFA account. That's when you get funded. He has one of them. All right. And what he's planning to do is he's planning to build, he could have up to five. So if you have five funded accounts of 50 grand each, they each cost 49 bucks, right? You can copy your trades, which is pretty cool. So if you made $500 in one of those accounts and you have five, well, you made $2,500. And again, not your own capital. It's pretty cool. So that's my experiment that I'm doing. All right, that's my experiment. Now, hopefully, you guys join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. All right, give you the market story, the market news, what's basically going on in markets, give you a bunch of technical analysis, followed by my long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and ES futures, which played out very nicely yesterday. And I kept mentioning ultimate balance, ultimate balance, ultimate balance, and trust me, I was aware of where we were and my exact scenario. Like I said, I set an alert, and I said, as soon as that alert goes off, I'm going to look at shorting, and it just never went up to my alert. It literally was perfectly at the last hourly candle. I was waiting for some type of manipulation. Like I said, it didn't happen. And then the market did what I thought it would do, and then I don't chase. And plus, it was afternoon. So all I know is my analysis is correct. All right. So I did have a decent day in Top Step with scalping. So it's not like I didn't have a bad day. But that would have been a nice one. Right. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage like what I'm talking about, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. All right. Let me be your indicator. All right. Now, I was live yesterday. So, that's why you don't get as many posts, because I'm live. I'm talking literally what I'm seeing in the markets. Okay. And my goal this week and last week is to commentate, narrate what's going on. And then when I see something that I've seen before and that I've seen that should happen, I'm taking a trade. It could be a scalp, because my setups, this market hasn't given many pullbacks. And I'm a pullback future trader. So like, I like to see a nice move and then a pullback and then I get in. This market doesn't do that. It just hasn't been doing that. If you look at 5-minute charts, we don't really pull back, go up and pull back and then fire. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. So that's what's been going on. All right. Now let's get into futures. Watch list here. We were weaker earlier, but this VIX, you expect large volatility in tempo. Volume's good today. The volume should die off next week going into Thanksgiving. Okay. That shouldn't be the best trading. Probably Monday will be maybe okay. Tuesday, maybe. And Wednesday should die off. Sometimes I believe, I'm not sure, we have a shortened session on Wednesday, but then Thursday and Friday is garbage. You don't trade the rest of that week. All right. And then we get into December, and December gets a little too. Let's go over it. VIX up almost 5.5%, 23.62 VIX. You're going to get some nice ranges today. Okay. Ethereum, it's kind of trying to bounce off levels there. Okay. Up 1%. 30-year bonds are being bought today. Should send yields a little lower. Crude up 0.27 at $60 a barrel. The dollar is down slightly. ES down 0.5%. Was down more earlier. Gold down 0.56. Russell down 0.56. Bitcoin is at 91. We'll get into that chart. Down 0.61. Nasdaq down 0.63. The Dow is down 0.76. It might be a little down more because of Home Depot's earnings. All right, 10-year yield is down. That should help out the mortgage rates. Silver down 1.17. Moving on to the Mag 7 Plus. Now, Google continues to get love because of Berkshire Hathaway's something, I forget, $1 billion stake in it. All right. So that's still pushing it. Apple up 0.22. Broadcom up 0.11. That's nothing really to talk about here. The one percenters, GE down 1%, Nvidia down 1.13. Remember, they report earnings tomorrow at their close. Coinbase with Bitcoin proxy down 1.16. AMD down 1.34. Meta down 1.5, under $600. Meta under $600, down 1.50. Microsoft down 1.87, under $500. Amazon down over 2%. Okay, moving on. Top sectors. Johnson & Johnson's flat. That's defensive. Costco's flat. There is a lot of one percenters here. United Healthcare is down. I just saw Donald Trump talk about he's not going to have families pay a lot of help for health insurance or something like that. So Chevron down 1.11. Uber down 1.14. Qualcomm down 1.26. GE Vernova down 1.48. Oracle's been getting slammed, down 1.60. Palantir's been getting a slam, down 2.44. Home Depot had earnings miss, and they are down 3.89%. Let's look at granular list here. Who's up this morning? Medtronic up 3.86, followed by Merck up 3%. Okay, Intuit up 1.86. Laggards, I'm sure there's a bunch of them. Yep. Cloudflare is having outages this morning. Cloudflare. Okay, I've seen it myself on some websites I'm going to, and it's saying like some weird thing. They're having outages. So they are down 3.46. This is an insurance company. I think it's called Lemonade. They're down. D-Wave down 2.98. What is that? Lowe's down in sympathy with Home Depot. Oklo Nuclear Flyer. Oof, that's down to $92. I think that thing was up to 170 something. Not profitable. Have no revenue yet. Okay. All right. That's it for that list. Let's switch back over here. All right. McDonald's, obviously that's looked at as more of a, even though it's discretionary sector, it's looked at more of a staple. All right, let's go to sectors. And we're going to see the usual suspect here when we're down like this. Healthcare is the only positive, and we're down. Technology is down 0.89. Discretionary, that's your Home Depot, your Tesla, your Amazon, down 1.02. Semiconductors down 1.18. That's a risk-off market. That's a risk-off market. All right, moving on to the economic calendar, which there's not really much because that government, well, we're reopened, but they need to figure that out when we're going to get more of this data. All right, so today, initial jobless claims came out at 5 a.m. Okay. Obviously this 8:15. Let me refresh this. That just changed up. All right. We have factory orders. None of the NHAB housing market index at 10 a.m. Fed bar speaking today. All right, that's that. Do we have a Trump? See, this is this friggin' Cloudflare. This is this Cloudflare. This is why that stock's down. They're having outages everywhere. And two of my sites are affected. This Financial Juice. I just had the friggin' thing up there. All right. And earnings, there was just Home Depot. Oop. Home Depot before the open. All right, that was really it. Let's go back over to news here. Home Depot stock slipped 3.6 after the world's largest home improvement retailer reported third quarter adjusted earnings that fell short of analyst expectations. Nvidia stock fell 0.9 ahead of the chip maker's quarterly earnings report. Alphabet stock gained 0.3 despite Sundar Pichai saying in an interview with BBC published on Tuesday that no company would be unscathed from the AI boom collapses. And that's it there. This is this Cloudflare just showing right here. You're seeing it. Okay, that's Cloudflare not really cooperating. So let's look at here. says target investors brace for a more market share drop. Weak sales due to U.S. shutdown. Let's see. U.S. stock index futures fell as concerns over lofty equity evaluations and diminishing prospects for an interest rate cut weighed on sentiment, though attention remained on Nvidia's earnings and key government data scheduled during the week. Just like I was talking about. All right, just like I was talking about. All right. Let's see if there's anything other big news that came out. Otherwise, I'm just gonna move on. Let's see. Autodesk Bard raises target price to 367. CrowdStrike Holdings, Berenberg initiates coverage with a hold rating and target price of 600. Eli Lilly, JP Morgan raises target price to 1150. That stock's been on a tear. Oracle, Baird cuts target price to 315 from 365, noting rising investor concerns regarding the company's debt levels. All right, that's why Oracle's getting demolished. It's really getting demolished. Now, I don't know if this is going to have a Cloudflare thing. Let's see if we have any upgrades, downgrades to talk about. Yes, it is a Cloudflare thing. So look at that. Cloudflare. Wow. So investing.com uses Cloudflare. Financial Juice uses Cloudflare. And this Market Beat uses Cloudflare. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. All right. So that is why that stock ticker NET is down. Now, we're going to move on to those market internals to show you what was going on under the hood yesterday. And again, like I spoke about, the key yesterday, okay, was those ticks. We'll get into that in a second. But this is the internals. Now, internally, see, we started out, the market was not very weak, right? And then you had this little sell-off, and then the market rallied. And this is where I was like, okay, we're by the previous day's close. I'm like, And then I already did a scalp short in here, in this area where we were ranging. And I had a couple shorts. And then I had a nice day. Close to close to $1,000 in the eval account. So I was like done. I locked it out. And then I was eyeing that short that I talked about pre-market. And I was eyeing it in here. And see what I'm talking about? You see how this was just ranging? And I'm like, all right, it's going into lunch. I set an alert like up here to say, okay, let me fire that off and I'll look at my short and see what I'm talking. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. These are 5-minute candles in the SPX. Look, it broke it. See how it doesn't ever retest? It just goes. This market doesn't pull back much. And then look, it ranges. And then look, just breaks. This market is not retesting. Every day I'm like, there's the move. I'm going to get in. And then it doesn't retest. And just like, okay. It just literally breaks out and keeps going. That's how this market is right now. So, and I don't like to trade breakout. You usually get poor entries when you trade a breakout. Now in this market, maybe I have to adapt, but that's what's going on there, right? And then these internals just got weak. And that's why you got this boom, 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 boom move. And you were coming from ultimate balance, like I stated pre-market. Okay, now real quick on ticks. These ticks were so red and holding under zero. And there's, like I said, pops are going to get sold. Okay? So that's what you got. Now, I was done for the day. So I was like, man, I'm looking at the market and I'm seeing it sell off. And I'm like, that was my trade that I talked about, but I didn't get it set up. So what are you going to do? I can't do anything about that. Okay? That's what was going on. All right? Now, let's get into daily charts here. Here's our SPY. Okay. Now yesterday, that's Friday's close. We came up there. Okay, so we opened here, closed here. All right, so we closed below this 50-day moving average. Now notice, we have not done that. Look, every time we've tried to close to 50, we don't close below it. Look at that. Don't close below it. Then we did yesterday. Okay? That's pretty important. Now, we're at 662 20. 662.20. We are right at the lows of yesterday. That is not bullish, folks. Okay. Now, let's look at futures. In futures, you can see we're underneath the 50-day. This swing low right here has been broken here, and you're getting a wick. So you can see how important this level is in futures, the 66.56s. Okay. Very important level. You can see this orange signifies last week's lows. So we're under last week's lows and at the previous week's lows. We still have this 100-day moving average at 6,600. Okay. All this is tough to get through. That's why this is not easy. All this trading is tough to get through. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Now, Qs. The Qs tried to break this uptrend. Couldn't do it yesterday. Closed, but they did close below the 50-day moving average. All right. Now, where are we at now? We're basically at 599.60. 599.60 is right at yesterday's lows. See? So we're still within the last week's, right? Now, the expected move to the downside this week in the range is 582. It's rounded to 593. That's 583. I'm sorry. That would bring us down here to like the 100-day moving average. I'm not saying that happens. That's just saying that would be the expected move to the downside if there was a big sell-off. Okay. Now, looking at futures, let's look at these futures levels. This is what I'm saying here. All this congestion from the past, if you crack below this candle, boo, right? And you could see, again, what did we do? We came right to last week's lows and got bought. Right now, you got bought from last week's lows. This is the previous week's lows. Okay? So, how many times are you going to test this level? I would think, now I don't know, this is where it gets tricky. Do we do anything severe before Nvidia's earnings and before the unemployment data, the jobs data on Thursday? I don't know. I've seen it where I say that, right? And we do something like this, and then it recovers for the jobs data and Nvidia earnings. I don't know. This market could do a ton of stuff. You just never know. Okay, you never know. Now, real quick, let's just get in with the breath here. This is your percentage of stocks over the 50-day moving average. We are down now to only 36%. Round it to 37. 37% out of 500 stocks are over their 50-day simple moving average. That is not a great breath. All right, it's not the weakest. Look, we go back in history. You talk about almost 0%. But we go back, I would say a good round average is when you're down to like probably 15%, 14%. That's when you usually get a reversal. Okay? We're not there yet. We're not there yet. If we crack under the 36 and we start going to 30%, yeah, this is going to get dicey here. Okay? This is going to get dicey. And who knows? Is Santa Claus coming to town? Maybe. I have no clue. Okay, so that's our breath. Let's move over to the hourly charts. We got some things to talk about there. Let's move. Let's go to the hourly charts. All right, let's look at this together. Now, I'm going to take this back to maybe like a 4-hour chart. Let's do that. And see, I'm going to give you a better visual of this. So remember, this is the composite volume profile on this side, right? The green represents this year. The white represents a rolling year. All right. This just means that price has never been here before, so it's this year, right? So this, I use it to visualize for myself, but you can just see the amount of sheer volume that's in this area, right? And we are right at key level around 66.50 here. You see how we're testing this. Now this is very important. Very, very important. And it's why it's getting support. Okay? Because after this, there's a void. You see that void in volume? And there's a void in volume all the way to here. Okay, and that level is 65.26. 65.26. Okay? That is where that market will go if we sell off. That's a void in volume. Okay? Now I did put this kind of wedge here. You can see the market's been hitting this kind of wedge. All right? So we came through this area now. Remember, we're not done with it. But remember this triple high volume node here. I said this was very important for the market. It's going to have problems with it. Well, every time we came down here, once we bounced, twice we bounced. We came down again and bounced. But now this time we're holding below it. Okay. Yesterday, the anchor VWAP from this low was taken out. Right here, right there. Boom. Taken out. Which put buyers underwater. Now I have an anchored VWAP from this swing high. Right there. That turquoise line. That represents sellers. Right there. Okay. Now, to give you a visual of from this space and time right there, we're going to do a volume profile to more visualize what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know if this is going to go back to this volume though, but let's just see what this gives us here. All right, let's get rid of these. Okay, so that's the volume profile from this point in time. It does give the visual pretty nicely. Okay, so if you look at that volume profile, now the highlighted area is the value area. That's 70% of this trading volume. Notice where it's at, perfectly in the triple, what I talked about. That well, a little above it, but right here, it shows that level perfectly. This is the value area low, 66.56 is what I was just talking about. Okay? Notice the volume falls off a cliff down here. That's that pocket. Okay? So from this point in time, which is around September, middle of September, this is your volume profile. Okay? You can see the most traded price of this time is 67.56. But you can see a bunch of high volume nodes here, 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 and here. That's the triple headed high volume node, right? This was ultimate balance from yesterday. That's why we made such a big move. Okay? That's why we made such a big move. Big moves happen from ultimate balance. All right, so I'm hoping that visualizes it for you a little better. Okay? So today, what I'm going to look for, all right, and I know it's going to be volatile, is any test. And this is where I would say, okay, this area, you have to see how we react to it. Okay, we have some supply zones here. So my thing would be any kind of push into this area and you get a rejection, you're going to try to short this, break those lows, and try to go for here. Now, I'm not saying that happens today, but I'm saying that could definitely happen. Okay, now, what else can happen? Well, let's say we push up here. We got 3 hours of support here. Let's say we push up into this range, and I can also see this just becoming back and forth in here waiting for NVIDIA and the Labor Department's statistics. Okay? I don't know what's going to happen. Okay? But this area is a pocket that you need to pay attention to. I don't know if it happens or not. You never know. Okay? You never know. So let's get rid of this volume profile now. Hope that was a nice visual. Okay? So move it back. I'm going to move my chart back to an hourly. I like looking at the hourly. Okay, this is my hourly. We're going to go to the NASDAQ. Let's go to that NASDAQ, okay? I'm going to go to a 4-hour on the NASDAQ. Let's do that. And let's see the structure difference between the NASDAQ and the ES. We have almost a similar setup a little bit. Let this just load up. Okay. There's our 4-hour. Okay. And you could see it again too, like this descending wedge. Okay, you can see right here the market's been bouncing off this line. Bounce, 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 right? That's pretty, a lot of touches there. Okay, a lot of touches. We break that, we're probably going down. Okay, I just put that on my chart to just see if are those touches. Okay, now we have a high volume node right here, 248s. This area is your gauge for the NASDAQ. What do we do with this area? Right? Do we just crisscross and play? Do we push back up, retest it, fail, reject, and that's the fall? Because you also have a void in volume here. Notice this is the last month's lows, 24157. That's last month's lows right here. Okay. We also had that anchor VWAP get taken out yesterday. Now I also have an anchor VWAP from this high right there. Okay, so this is the judge in your NASDAQ, the 248. That's the level to watch. Okay. Now, let's look at a volume profile to see visually. This is what I love about the volume profile. The visual is like great. It's really nice to look at just to see. Whenever it friggin' happens, it usually doesn't take that long. Oh, what the heck is that? Oh, did I do something wrong here? That was like a Fibonacci extension. Hold on. Hold on. Let me do that again. I think that's why it froze on me here. There we go. There's the volume profile that I wanted you guys to see. All right, let's look at it. All right, so we have our value area, right? That's the green. 70% of the trading volume, right? So this is the area from this space and time around September 10th. This has been the value area of trading. You can just see the sheer volume. It's pretty apparent when you look at the volume profile, right? Most traded price, what did I say? 24828. This is that price. You can see the sheer amount of volume here. Okay? That's your barometer to measure the NASDAQ against. Okay? That's your barometer. And I would say, look at this resistance level right here. This is your value area high, 25376. I would say if you went up there, took this out, that is bullish. That is bullish. Okay, that would be bullish. Now, what if we here, now you have this visual, you can see if we come up here, fail, what's down here? See this, the volume just goes less and less and less people trade it down here. it could really cascade down, like I said. So 248s, pay attention. 248s, pay attention to it. It's a nice visual. Let's go back to the hourly chart. I love volume profile, man. It just shows you it all. It's so cool. It really just shows you it all. All right. That's your hourly charts, folks. Whoever's with me. Whoever's with me. All right, we're going to go straight into the volume profile, market profile, and we'll talk about some scenarios now. Let's do it. Let's look at these markets together. Really come up with some game plan that I would expect to possibly happen today. Okay? Let's do it. And this is your market profile and volume profile. Here we are. Here's your market profile, volume profile. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All right, now let's get right into some levels now. Okay. Now, we are not gapping down. We are right at yesterday's lows right here. The VPOC from the overnights, the overnight VPOC is 6660. That's going to be key. Okay. We have our triple high volume nodes right here. We know that I kept talking about this all the way back here when we first dropped that held the market. Then look at held the market. Then look at held the market. Held the market. Now we're starting to accept price below it. That is bearish. That is bearish. All right. That is bearish. That's what I love judging these levels, right? That's why I say, hey, I use the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day, right? So that's how you judge, and the market tells you, instead of me predicting something, structure. That's why I say structure is king, right? The market will prove to you. And it might not prove it to you in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay? Now, let's look at these. Let's look at these. Now, there's an important thing here to note. All right? We are close to, I would say, 90% net short. Market opened in the overnight here, and you have all this short activity to only this much long. Now, this is a better edge when this price, which is right here, is down here, because you generally get a correction. You generally get a correction. Okay? I want this price to be down here to me taking advantage of that. Because guess what I want? Why does that work, right? Well, let's look at this. If you're a person, you always have to think about person's emotions. If I got short here, right? Well, or I got short here. I'm getting paid. This people are getting paid. And these people are getting paid. And the overnight hands are short. They're weak. Overnight hands are weak. Okay? Weak hands meaning they're not the big boys that trade overnights. Okay? So, I want that price down here. But if the price we open up and it's somewhere down here, we're gapping down, you should get a correction. You should. If you don't, it means our market is very, very weak. Okay? That's the explanation of when I ever tell you the inventory. If I say, we're 100% net short, 100% net long. In this case, 90% net short. I have to note that. I have to note that. Okay? Now, let's look at some levels. All right? Big one stands out to me right here. You got a lot of confluence here, hence the name Confluence Trading. Right here. What do we have here? Last week's lows. Looks like we're going down. Yeah, Bitcoin's not looking too hot. Bitcoin is not looking too hot. Okay? I'll end with Bitcoin. All right? And coal. What's going on? Now, let's look at this ES. All right? What does this encompass? Last week's lows. The high volume node of 6670. The overnight low. Yesterday's lows. the overnight most traded price the overnight most traded price, the overnight VPOC. This is very important. It's the bottom of the triple-headed high volume node. Okay? If you can't get over this, that's going to be a nice move lower. Okay? That's going to be a nice move lower. Now, we do have a nice level here as well. At the top of the triple high volume node, we have the 50% Fibonacci up here of yesterday. We have this supply zone. All right? And down here we have a demand zone. I think, which could be probably a target if we hit here or we bounce here. Okay? Now we came from ultimate balance yesterday, right up here. I talked about that ad nauseum yesterday. I said big moves happen from ultimate balance. Big moves happen from ultimate balance. Well, we got it. We got it. Okay? Let's go into break out this session and let's talk about some scenarios here. All right, there's your overnight sessions price action. All that is 30-minute bars. That's all it is. Okay? Now, I'm bearish biased right now. So let's talk about scenarios here. Okay. So we know we have our triple-headed high volume node by these boxes, right? 1, 2, 3. We know price is accepting below the triple high volume node. That is bearish. Okay? That is bearish. Now, what would I like to see? This is the most traded price over the overnight, 66.60. Remember, we're almost 90% net short. So, what can I expect? What would I like to see? Okay? If we drive into this triple high volume node area, into this supply zone, and let's say we tap this 66.83s and we fail, and we come back under the 66.70s and retest it, guess what's going to happen? Once you start to rip, you need to break the 66.60, that most traded price of the overnights. If you come through it, you're going to cascade. You're going to take out the overnight lows, 66.35s. You're going to find yourself in testing this demand zone. Do we bounce here? I don't know. You could definitely just get in here and we bounce. Remember, tomorrow's NVIDIA. The next day is the labor statistics, the unemployment data. Okay? Remember the pocket of volume I showed you earlier. It can get really nasty. Okay? I would predict a farther move down if we didn't have NVIDIA and we didn't have the unemployment data. Because cuts are not looking hot for December. Okay? Now, I'm not the most in patterns, but you do have a head and shoulders here, which is a bearish pattern. There's your left shoulder, there's your head, there's your right shoulder, there's your neckline. Okay? Now, can we go deeper? Yes. I wouldn't prefer it, but we could push up more. Maybe we even think, oh God, are we going to get out of this high volume node, triple header high volume node, hit the 68.0, let's call it 68.10s. Nope. Drop. And then this would be, for me, a harder short. You might get a move here, but you're in this congestion. I don't know. This might range. So it could work. I'm not crazy about it. All right, let's go over to longs. What do I want to see for a long? Okay. Remember, price accepting below the triple high volume node is bearish. Is bearish. Now, the long that I talked about is we're 90% net short. So if the market opens, I need the market to open down here. If the market opens down here, and say we take out the overnight lows, okay? And then all of a sudden, let's say that's the open. that line, and you see this, a rip through that open, that could be a long. And not a long meaning I'm bullish for the markets. Just you need some people to start taking some profits. And you can get a nice push up, maybe to 66.60, the overnight VPOX, or just to the 66.70s. Not looking for a huge move. I don't, and again, maybe we do push through that whole thing. I don't know. I wouldn't think we push through it, though. That's a nice move. Okay? Honestly, that's probably all I'm interested in. I don't want to be longing inside this mess. Nope, 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 nope. Now, the other thing is, if let's say we just come down, we open up down here, we gap down, okay, and we go into that demand right around here, like 6610s, 6600s. Now, let's say we gap and go, but I see internals and they're not that weak, and I'm like, okay, these internals are not that weak. We have Nvidia, we have unemployment data. I would need to see like a knife in the ground, high or low, to try to get back to this area for Nvidia's earnings. More of a de-risk long. Okay? Now, of course, more plans will come to fruition based on how we open. I don't know what's going to drive the markets today. Nobody does. Right now, semis is the laggard. Most times, semis the laggard. You get a pop in semis, and then the market might figure out, okay, we're going to dump it. I don't know. That's your ES. Let's go to NASDAQ. Here's our NASDAQ. Okay. Let's talk about it here. All right. NASDAQ is not gapping down, but it has a similar setup. Remember what I talked about? The 248s. 248s. In the NASDAQ, the 248s. Okay? This is what I'm talking about right here. So you're going to have yesterday's lows, the overnight VPOC, 24741s, right? You're going to have this demand zone and the 248, the high volume node right here. That's this box. That's that box. And you got a beautiful level, okay? The 24626s. 246s. Let's call it 246s right here. Look at this low. Right here, right here, right here. Woo! Begging to get broken. Begging to get broke. 246s. You need to hold that, bulls, in the NASDAQ. You need to hold the 246s. Okay? That's tried 3 times. Many times, the more times you knock on that door, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Okay? Now, we have our overnight highs hanging up with our close. And then we have ultimate balance. Okay? Again, big moves happen from ultimate balance. Our ultimate balance level, 25150s, 25150s right here. That was why we had such a powerful move down. Okay? That's what I talked about yesterday. Now we do have a demand zone down here. Can it save the market? Maybe. The bottom of it's 244. Maybe. Let's open a session up and let's start talking about a scenario and we get out of here. All right. Now, let's talk about the NASDAQ scenarios. Let's do it. We're going to talk about bearish bias on the markets right now. You're holding and accepting price below the 248s. Below the 248s. We have that head and shoulders. Okay? And your 246, let's say, is your neckline. You break this, I believe we go farther down. Okay? Now, what would I like to see? We're at yesterday's lows, right? We're at yesterday's lows. We're at the VPOC of the overnight. Okay? What I want to see, push up here. Try to take out these 248s, right? Get into this supply. Reject. Come down. Bounce off that overnight VPOC. Retest the 248s. And then guess what, folks? You short that. You short that. You target the 246s. Okay, if these ticks are holding below zero, if the tech is weak, semis are weak, boy oh boy, this should be a nice push, and you might hit those 244s. Trust me. Okay, trust me, because longs came in here, right? They got paid a little bit. Shorts came in. Longs came back. The longs are there to get hurt. Okay. If you go to 244s and this thing is looking real bad, we can go down to the 242s. I don't know because of Nvidia. Now, you start taking out the 248s, you start to go to the overnight highs. Yeah, I'm not going to be looking to short probably. Okay. Now, longs. Oops. Longs. Let's talk about it. All right. We're at the overnight VPOC. Right? Most traded price of the overnights. Yesterday's lows. It's a lot of traffic there. Okay. If I want to go long, it's going to be similar. Remember, also over here, we're 90% net short. Shorts have been getting paid. So I would love to open up. When we open up, I'd love to be at the 246s. Love it. Even hit this demand. Guess what I want? I'd see a nice recovery, higher or low. You go right to the 24740s. That might be your play, or you go to the 248s. I think that's all you got. You got a lot of stuff there. I mean, this market has to be rip roaring to rip through the 248s. Okay, you shouldn't rip through 248s. If you do, that is a very bullish move. Okay, that's all I care about right there. Now, if we get the push down and we start the cascade, I would say judge what we do in this demand. 244s, even if we do a little bear trappy here and we do this, you get a higher low. I would say this is the de-risk to go back to the 248s for Nvidia in that unemployment data. Okay. That's it, folks. That's what I'm looking at today. That is what I am looking at. And that's it for me, folks. Now, oh, I promised you a Bitcoin chart. I don't know if Cole's still here. Let's look at that Bitcoin together. Let's look at that Bitcoin. Let me get my future start up here. I'm going to show you the big level that I talked about last week. It got taken out. That's very key. Let me just change my workspace here. Okay. We're right on Bitcoin now. Cole, you there? If you're not, I'm doing it anyway. All right. So, what did I say last week? Last week I said, generally, when you come to the 95,610 is the most traded price of the rolling year. This hot pink line. And I said, generally, when you come there, the market stops. It did, but I said if you cut through it, that's bearish. And we did. See how you cut through it? You retested it, cut through it. And I said, you do have a high volume node here around 85 or something, right? But if you start to move down, we definitely can see 77. Okay? We broke the anchor VWAP from this year. We broke the 200-day moving average. That is what we're looking at. Okay? That is what we're looking at. Now, let's go to a different time frame here. Let's go to the month. This is the month, all right? This is your anchored VWAP for the month right here. This is your week-to-date VWAP, the green. We are below both. Okay. That's your most traded price of the month. It was around 108. Okay. This is not looking the best. You got a little bounce here. We went down to 89,000. Okay. You went down to 89,000. Let's go one more time frame. We're going to do the weeklies and the monthlies. These are monthlies. You can see this area 93 and look at this monthly support. You got monthly support at the 77. So we could cascade down there if this market gets weaker. Okay? You just took back 6 months of buying has been gone, taken away. Taken away. And this is your weeklies. Okay? I'm just giving you how I look at the markets. You can see right here, that's that support, 77s. Let's see, you took out the 30-week EMA, the 10-week EMA, all pointing down. This 10-week is crossing over to 30. This is not looking great. Okay? That is your Bitcoin. Now, hopefully you enjoyed all of my analysis. Smash the like button if you did. Be much appreciated. All right? And as always, hopefully you join me every day. Subscribe, set that alert. I do this every morning. Let me be your cup of coffee. Let me be your cup of tea, water, all that. All right? Give you market news, the real deal of the markets, what to look at. All right? One-stop shop. And I just gave you NASDAQ and ES futures, long and short trade scenarios. Long and short trade scenarios. All right? Now, if you want more in depth, you're going to join Confluence Trading, the Discord. Go to the YouTube homepage and sign up. Don't know what you're waiting for. I'm dropping golden nuggets every day in there. Every day. You don't got to trade like me, but I'm telling you, trust me. Trust me when I'm saying, hey, listen, we don't have the strength or we don't have the weakness to go that much farther today, and it's always a snapshot. I'm not saying I can guarantee you for the rest of the day because the next 5 minutes could change. But when I give you a snapshot, trust it. Trust it. I really would like to be like, if someone on here ever watches me and you're a quant and you can code with me, yo, let's hook up. Let's hook up because I'll show you all the stuff that I see and the probabilities and we will connect. Okay? We will connect. I'm so down for that. Because trust me, I have the utmost confidence in the way I read the market. So take advantage of it. Maybe you're a better trader than me, maybe, right? You could be a better trader than me. I'm not the best. And you're like, yo, I take what you say, and you say this, I went long, and now every time I'm hearing you say this, I do this, and yo, share it with me. Okay? Share it with me. Now, everybody, I am done. Have a great day. Stay green. We're going to have a wild market. Volatility is going to be high. All right? Remember, no trade's a trade. No trade is a trade. It's going to be volatile. Widen your stops. Use less contracts. Okay? Everybody have a great day.